Marlin City Council members, my name's John Sellers. That was my wife. I apologise for interrupting her. I had a legal reason for that. I just want to take issue with one point that Gary made. I think probably most of you know, and I'm sure Liz Burke does, there's been a lot of public record searches. There's over 1,400 documents that I went through at the behest of the board. Part of those documents are the old Land Development Code and the Land Development Code that was adopted in 2003. I think if you'll check, you'll find that both of them, when there's an abandonment or a dedication of a public street, it always must come before the public body. It's a basic principle. The reason I was correcting my wife is that there will be a challenge to the ballot. It'll be filed in Superior Court tomorrow, so I'm not going to say much more about that, except to say if it does succeed, to get to Councilman Hannah's question, if this does succeed, any vote that you might take today, we believe would prove to be an expropriation of property under Proposition 207. The issue for us is we paid $1 million cash for our house. Because of the so-called administrative error that Gary described, we've been declined 3 times by well-known national reverse mortgage lenders until, as one called it, this sticky title mess has been cleaned up. And that's not without some creative attempts on my part as a banker to get a mortgage commitment with opinions of Phoenix law firms, and we couldn't do it. This administrative error, in reality, is a carefully orchestrated series of events, with the masterminds being the developer Time Myers and city officials at the time, some of whom are sitting in this room. We believe that ratifying the 2003 plat means granting them amnesty, which we don't believe you can do. Furthermore, legal research strongly suggests that even if the 2003 plat had been properly approved, it would have still been illegal because of its form, because of the splitting of the right-of-way and the ownership of the land. If that's true, the city could end up owning the crossings. That's basically my analysis. The good news is you won't need voter approval because it's not quite $40 million. It's something less than that. I've seen white-collar crime, and don't jump to conclusions easily. Steve Blair alleged criminality on the part of Craig McConnell, who I think is sitting behind me, and Time Myers to me in Murphy's Bar in July 2009. Despite his allegations, my sworn affidavit a few weeks later still reflected what I thought was the hard evidence and the facts, where I said, this is sworn affidavit, my strong suspicion without knowing all the facts, and for the avoidance of doubt only with respect to paid public officials, is this was simple, disorganized ineptitude on the part of the city compounded by some very poor legal advice. I have no evidence or belief that paid officials' action merit an FBI or other criminal investigation. That changed dramatically with evidence later supplied unasked by city staff. This showed that Time Myers had applied for abandonment of Lorraine Drive in his commercial subdivision in early 2002. The unlawful plat, together with this abandonment, constitutes a swap of the traditional neighbourhood road through his commercial subdivision into our residential one. Now, here's an analogy which might help. Say City Council approved plans for Rosser Road, but with a private gate in the middle, closing it to through traffic. People then buy lots based on this. But behind closed doors, the developer and the city delete the gate in the plat when recorded, and Rosser becomes a main thoroughfare. Oh, and by the way, imagine 75% of the residents, when uncovering this a few years later, no problem, forget the gate, give it to the city for free, we don't mind living behind a highway. That was the vote that was described earlier. Mr. Musgrove, and I'm sorry my wife did get Mr. Musgrove and Atkinson, we get them confused regularly, excuse me, stood here on April 27th last and said, there's been too much made of this whole situation because nobody has sat down and looked at it as a whole. Well, that's not true. Because Eric English, a young attorney with his firm, had done just that 7 days earlier. He'd sent his excellent legal analysis on April 23rd to our title insurer. His description of the administrative error is as follows, quotes, the developer in conjunction with the mayor, city engineer, and planning director circumvented the final plat approval process by failing to satisfy the requirement in section 910(9) of the new land code. He then adds, the developer and city of Prescott are liable if title fails due to an invalid plat. The developer had a duty to ensure the plat was properly approved by the city council, and the city of Prescott incorrectly approved the plat. In closing, he says, he writes a very good memo. Jim, you are the strategist on this one, and I think we already decided our best course of action would be to go after the city and let the city pursue the developer. Now, the interesting bit is, excuse me, on seeing this, our title company immediately emailed Musgrove, but not us, because we didn't get the memo until recently, saying, quotes, I think we can all agree that the effect of a court-ordered invalidation of the 2003 plat may have some disastrous consequences for everyone. Ironically, the same title company with a claim outstanding emailed us the same day saying, quote, I've attached a preliminary report for a loan policy which does not disclose this as a title issue. I don't see any reason why an appraisal would pick this up as a title issue. I see no obstacle to refinancing or selling for that matter. So my questions to you are, one, will this plat be approved by a judge with a declaratory action, because that was a condition of the special vote? And two, who's actually opining on the legality of all this? If it were Eric English, by the way, who writes a very good memo, I might rely on that, because he strikes me as a very good attorney, but his opinion was not given to us. He actually put his legal reasoning on paper. Marlin, he might even make a Rhodes Scholar. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions. To the extent there is a legal action pending on the ballot, obviously I won't get into that, but we have not yet retained counsel to act on the title issue. So to the extent I can, I'll be willing to answer any questions. Thank you.